Hi, welcome everyone. Next, we will be hearing from our next session, which is called Seed Swap Day. My name is Cindy Goodner. I'm the Development Director at Seed Savers Exchange, and I'll be your host for this session. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge our community agreements. We ask that all participants in growing together, sharing seeds, stories, and skills, be respectful, be curious, be patient, speak from your own experiences, try to avoid jargon, be conscious of intent versus impact, take space and make space, and take care of self. By embracing these community agreements, we embrace collective responsibility to create spaces that are respectful, inclusive, and empowering for all. I would also like to take a moment to thank UNFI, who is our title sponsor for this session. UNFI is a wholesaler connecting over 10,000 supplier partners to grocery stores and other value-added food retailers while working to drive positive change in the food system. UNFI's mission aligns with Seed Savers Exchange's mission, especially when it comes to improving food access. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce Kathy Jentz. Kathy is an editor and publisher of the award-winning Washington Gardener magazine based in Washington, D.C. She is also the editor of three Plant Society journals, hosts the popular GardenDC podcast, which was recently named Best DC Podcast. And she is the co-author of The Urban Garden, 101 Ways to Grow Food and Beauty in the City, and is the author of Groundcover Revolution. Kathy, welcome.
Thank you, Cindy. Great to be here. Great to be talking to my seed friends, because I think all of us are seed obsessed. Never enough seeds, right?
There's never enough seeds. So we will have time at the end for question and answer. So feel free to put your questions in the chat in the meantime, and we'll cover those at the end. But Kathy, I'm looking so forward to hearing about National Seed Swap Day and your recommendations for hosting seed swaps in communities. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Cindy. And let's see if I can share my screen. There we go. And so this presentation is about Seed Swap Day, which is a national holiday and event that I started about 19 years ago. So a little bit quickly about me first. So that's me and my grandfather's apple orchard in Northwest Indiana. So my dad's side of the family, farmers and gardeners in the Midwest. My mom's side of the family, gardeners in Bavaria in Germany, where I was born, and they had a lifelong allotment garden, which you actually get a 99-year lease for those European allotment gardens. So really good program that they have there, and you really get to invest and grow fruit trees and have great gardens when you have a long lease like that guaranteed on it. So that was my background. I got into gardening and then started to garden like crazy. And then I started my own local gardening magazine for the Washington, D.C. area. I'm a journalist by background and gardener by passion. So I saw a need in our DC Mid-Atlantic area for more gardening knowledge. There was tons of gardening going on, lots of growers, lots of wonderful programs, lots of great public gardens, but not so much for the home gardener. So I started that March 2005. And then I started to see this giant uptick in so many new gardeners coming into the scene and wanting to know about gardening and connecting with me in the magazine and our different programs and social media. And at the same time, I was, like a lot of you, getting a little seed crazy. So I had a lot more seeds in my personal possession than I could ever personally grow, right? So I thought, there's got to be a way to get these seeds into the hands of home gardeners. So I started the first ever Washington Gardener Seed Exchange, and I'll tell you a little bit about how we host our seed exchanges here locally. And that first one happened at the U.S. National Arboretum, and there was about, I think, 60 to 75 of us. And basically, I just told people to come with their seeds and set up a program, and I'll describe that in a little bit. But at that same time, I thought, you know what? It's late winter. I think all gardeners, wherever they are, should be part of a local seed swap in person. So there's a lot of online seed exchanges and by mail seed exchanges. But I thought the key for creating a local gardening community was getting us together in person. And I wanted everybody in their own local communities to also mirror that and have their own seed swaps. So I applied to a place called Chase Calendar of Events for National Seed Swap Day. And their only requirements is that you have something, like you have a website, some online presence, and a mission. So our mission is for local seed swaps to happen and to connect people at the local level. So we use hashtag Seed Swap Day on social media, and our website is seedswapday.com. And then I had a contest because I wanted a logo to go for Seed Swap Day. And then I just put it out to the world and I said, anybody, any graphic artist want to pitch a logo? And this gentleman came through and he designed this marvelous logo for us. And then a couple years into it, I said, Kathy, to myself, why did you name it National Seed Swap Day? Because I started to get a lot of people from Canada, Europe, Mexico, Central and South America who wanted to list their seed swaps on our Seed Swap Day website. And I was like, of course you can list your seed swap with us. And why did I name it National? I don't know. So I've since dropped National from the title and it's just Seed Swap Day. And that's to say it's the last Saturday of January. I made it that specific date. But if you have a seed swap a few weeks earlier, a few weeks later after that date, we still count it. We still list it on our website. It doesn't have to be on that exact date. But that date just gives people something to point to and celebrate about. So now for my local seed exchanges, I hold one on that Saturday at Brookside Gardens in Wheaton, Maryland, which is just north of Washington, D.C. And then the following Saturday, I hold one in Northern Virginia at Green Spring Gardens in Alexandria, Virginia. That's just south of Washington, D.C. So I have those 2 weeks in a row. So again, we're very loose on the day. It could be, again, anytime in and around that day. And we're very loose on the location, just has to be open to the public. You can charge a fee for it to cover your costs. We're fine with that. And we'll go into some of those details in a minute. But first, I wanted to describe how we hold our seed exchanges. So I call ours a seed exchange rather than a seed swap, the ones we hold locally, because I think when people hear the word swap, they think you're going to have a table. Somebody comes up to you and says, I have tomato seeds. Can I trade you for those marigold seeds? And that's one way to hold a seed swap or seed exchange. But what we do is when you register, you come into the check-in and we check you in that you're pre-registered or you can register on site, and you drop off your seeds there at the check-in table. And then our volunteers, while we have our 2 speaker programs go on, sort the seeds by categories at tables around the room. So we have a circle of tables around the room, and one table might say herbs, one might say annual flowers, one might say perennials. And so we're sorting the seeds that people brought in onto those tables. And so we have a little bit of time to do that. And then I should note here as well that it's not just the seeds that people bring in that we're sorting and putting out on those tables. We also have generous donations from seed companies of seeds from the prior year that they can no longer sell but are still viable. So we also put out the seeds that are donated to us onto tables, and we also give out seeds in our goodie bags and other items. So most people have 5 or 6 packs of seeds already in their goodie bag to start off with. Then we have our speaker program. We break for refreshments. And then we have this, what's called the seed swap preview. So I tell people during this half-hour refreshment break to enjoy refreshments, use the restroom, get to know other gardeners. But that's your time to go around the room and look at all the tables and make notes. So you can take a picture with your phone. We have scrap paper and extra things there. And we say, go ahead and write down what you're interested in, because what happens during the seed swap itself later on in the program is people forget. They forget that, oh, I wanted those hollyhocks. I wanted that particular pepper. They just lose their mind. So I say, always make notes, and then also make note of things you have questions about, because then we gather together after the seed swap preview. Everybody sits back down and we have our seed show and tell session. So during the seed show and tell, anybody can get up and say, I brought those beans. They came from my grandfather's farm, and here's a little bit about them. You can also share about your local garden club, other upcoming events. You can ask garden questions during that. But then I also encourage people to say, hey, I saw those red cotton seeds. Who brought those? And can you tell me more about them? So that's a real sharing part of our program. And then once that's done and we've had a little bit of exchanging of knowledge and community, then we hold the annual swap. And how I do it is I call people up in groups. So I'll say, everybody who was born between January and June, go get your first seed pack. So they'll all get up, go get a seed pack and sit down. Then everybody who's born from the end of the year, from July to December, they get their seed pack. And we'll do like 3 or 4 rounds of that. So everybody will pick 1 seed per round, and I'll just do random things. Like I'll say, everybody wearing jeans, go get your second seed pack. Everybody not wearing jeans, go get your second seed pack. So most people will get their first, second, third, or fourth choice. And then we might do a round of go and pick 2 or 3 at a time. And then we'll finish up, we'll look at what's on the tables, and we'll say free for all time. So we'll give people like 10 minutes or so to go and take whatever they like from the tables at that point that's left. No limit. You can take 1, you can take 10, or whatever is left. And then when we gather back together, have everybody say, if there was something they didn't get, to speak up then. So say there was only 1 seed pack of those red cotton seeds. So somebody will say, I was really hoping to get some of those red cotton seeds. Would the person who got that pack please share with me? And we have a seed packing table so people can open up their packs and share with each other and relabel them. So that's always worked out very well. That's also an opportunity for somebody to say, you know, there's a particular pepper that I've been looking for and I didn't see it out on the tables, but maybe one of you grows it and can contact me afterwards. So people will connect that way as well. They'll say, I didn't see a particular seed I'm looking for, but if you see it, you know, contact me. So we'll share that information. And then we have a garden photo contest that we run for the magazine. So we'll announce the winners and show those. And we do door prizes throughout the program. So before and after every speaker, for refreshment break, and after the show and tell, we'll draw prizes. And those are all donated by sponsors and seed companies and things. So we have a nice amount of prizes for everybody as well. And that helps people to have it throughout the program. And it helps, you know, with the atmosphere and the fun party like community that we form. So of course, during the pandemic, we weren't able to have the seed exchange in the form that we'd had it for 10 plus years. So I pivoted and I hosted a seed exchange on Seed Swap Day online with other local seed swap organizers. And so you can still watch that on YouTube. We had about an hour-long conversation and we talked to them about how they run their local seed swaps. So it was really interesting to hear some of the ones that we had listed on our Seed Swap Day website talk about how they run theirs, how it's different from mine. And we exchanged tips and tricks for running a great local seed exchange. So if you're interested in holding your own seed swap, I highly recommend watching that YouTube video of that. And it's at Washington Gardener Magazine's YouTube channel. And I have the link at the bottom, and hopefully we can share that link with you guys in the chat or something later as well. So even though we weren't able to meet in person on that seed swap day. What I did during the pandemic is later on, at the end of winter, early spring, I set up an in-person seed swap. What I did was all the seeds that were sent to me by donation, I lined up on tables, and then I had people sign up for time slots. And then there were just a few people in the room per time slot. Everybody was masked and safe and socially distanced. And so a few people went through at a time and picked their seeds. So they had a bag, and they were able to just pick from those seeds. And that worked out really well, to do that in a large room with social distancing and masks on, to get those seeds out to people. So one of the other ways we build communities with our annual seed exchanges is that the seeds that are left over at the end of the seed swaps or our seed exchanges, I put out a call to the local community and I say, are you a community garden, school garden? It could be a retirement home. If you're in need of seeds, contact me and we will get seeds to you. So all of those seeds almost always find a good home and somebody who will be using them and growing them. Because one of our rules at the seed exchange is, as you can imagine, the free-for-all can get a little crazy, but I just tell people, try to only pick up seeds that you're personally going to grow. We can be a little greedy at times, but just try to get the ones that you think you'll grow. And there's always plenty of seed. So I always encourage people who even don't have seeds to attend our seed exchange, even if you don't have seeds to swap, because there's always extra seeds. We always have more. And gardeners, as you know, are very generous people. And then I ask people who grow things from our seed exchange to still use that hashtag seed swap day. And later on in the year, share on social media, I grew this from the Washington Gardener Seed Exchange, hashtag seed swap day. I'm loving the taste of this heirloom tomato or what have you, for that. And I should say, that we also host other local events. So I host an annual plant swap, usually in the fall. Tomato taste at a local farmer's market happens in late summer, and other local events that we get people together, similar to our annual seed exchanges, but with a slightly different focus. And one of the things I'm thinking about starting in future years is a seedling swap. So maybe 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks or so after the seed exchange. If we all know we start too many tomato seeds, right? We have too many in the packet. Maybe just exchanging those seedlings for people who attended the seed swap or the seed exchange with us. And then I was able to launch our weekly podcast during the pandemic. So there have been several episodes of GardenDC, which Cindy mentioned won Best DC Podcast. It just won also Best Gardening Podcast, which that's from GardenCom, the Association of Garden Communicators. So I'm proud of that. But we had several episodes about seed saving and seed starting and seed swapping. One of our hosts was guests. It was Ira Wallace from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. We've had Ujama Seeds on. We've had several others. So check out some of our seed-oriented topics on our podcast, GardenDC. And then, as Cindy mentioned, I co-wrote a book on urban and small space gardening, and we talk a little bit about growing seeds and growing direct sowing seeds in urban and small space gardens there. I give a lot of in-person and online talks, and whenever I'm doing those, I try to get out the word about growing from seed and collecting seed. And that's one of my favorite talks to give, is techniques for collecting seed, because I feel like it's free. Mother Nature gave us these seeds, and we are here to propagate them and pass them on. And then I just wrote another book, Groundcover Revolution, which most of the ground covers were not starting from seeds, but still a topic near and dear to my heart, because I've also started, aside from Seed Swap Day, our first annual Reduce Your Lawn Day will be this May 20th. And that is to encourage people to look at their turf grass lawns and check out if there might be a section that could be a food garden. or it could be a cutting garden, or it could be a pollinator meadow. So just that day is a day to sit back and evaluate your landscape and say, does this need to be lawn? Does this need to be turf grass? Or am I never stepping on it except for to mow it and maintain it? So check out that new holiday as well. And here's a couple pictures from our seed exchanges. So that's how to share our seeds. As Maggie, I think one of the earlier speakers today talked about, labeling carefully and clearly is super important. And we do have an extra table again of seed labeling and seed packing materials at our seed exchanges in case somebody comes in and they say, I don't know, I didn't have materials, I didn't know what to do. So we encourage people to put as much information as possible on their seeds that they bring into the swap. And of course, to test your germination rates and make sure your seeds are still viable, that they were kept dry, number one, and cool, number two, if you can. And we also, as seeds are being brought into our seed exchange, we make sure that they are not on our local native invasive species list. Very, very rarely does that happen. Most people are not collecting seeds from Asian wisteria and bringing that into a seed exchange. But we do screen out a few things if that might be coming in the door. And I always recommend these sources for seed saving and seed sharing, and Seed to Seed by Susan Ashworth is a great one. Complete Guide to Saving Seeds by Robert Go, and Starting and Saving Seeds by Julie Thompson Adolph is another great resource. And that's me. So I'm going to open it and have the rest of our time for questions, but that's my contact information. Most everywhere I'm at WDC Gardener on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, most social media. My blog and website is washingtongardener.blogspot.com. On Facebook, you can find me under my name, Kathy Jentz, and also under the magazine, Washington Gardener Magazine. Same thing on YouTube. We're Washington Gardener Magazine on YouTube. And then GardenDC, of course, was the podcast. And I'm going to stop the share, Cindy, if I can. And we can bring it up to a full screen, and wanted to get a little time check and see other questions from the audience.
Kathy, thank you. That was fascinating. I learned so much, and I hope that all of our audience too were inspired to start their own community seed swaps if that's not already something that they do. So
yeah, some areas, I was just going to say, Cindy, there's some areas that are really active, like the Chicago area does a great job with their local libraries and has several seed exchanges around Seed Swap Day. And then there are other areas of the map where I'm like, there's none in Florida that I know of. And I'm like, come on, Florida, we need to get some seed exchanges on the map, right?
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so to all of our listeners out there, I'm sure that you have questions for Kathy. Go ahead and please put those in the chat, or you can enter them as in the Q&A. Kathy, I'm going to start with a few questions while we wait for questions to come in from our audience. I'm curious, what do you think is the most challenging aspect of hosting a seed swap?
Well, you have to be a really good organizer. And then getting the word out. So your two things are, first, securing the space. It could be partnering with a local public garden or local public library or a school, and then setting the date if you pick the seed swap day itself or around there, and then getting the word out to your local community. Because I feel like a lot of us gardeners are in our own little insular world, right? And we're not paying attention to what's in our local paper or listings or on Nextdoor. So sometimes it's hard to reach that core audience of gardeners out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, our first question from the audience is going to be from Felicity. And she asks, how do you determine how much time for speakers?
That's a great question, Felicity, because it's never enough time. I give our expert speakers, and it's always on a different seed topic. So one speaker might be on how to collect native seeds, native wildflower seeds. And then another speaker might be on how to set up your light system for seed starting. So I try to do different speakers and change it up every year and have something for everyone from beginner up to intermediate. And I give them both 45 minutes. But yeah, it's tough because usually the audience wants to ask them 100 questions afterwards, and we never have enough time. But the good thing is, because we have that refreshment break and seed swap half hour after the speakers, I always ask our speakers to stay over, and our speakers get, we pay our speakers and we give them a full, access to the seed exchange to participate in it and to bring a guest with them. So that encourages them to stay. And if the audience has more questions during the break time, they can find them and ask them. And most speakers are super excited to participate in the exchange themselves.
Absolutely. Okay. Our next question is from Kevin. And Kevin asks, how do you manage the age of seeds in the swap? Not too old, other than a germ test.
Other than the germ test. Yes. So there have been some super ancient seeds that came in, and, you know, could be like in an old pill bottle or jar. And I just ask people to label it. As long as it's labeled and people go in knowing they're taking a chance that this packet was 2006, this packet is 2019, then they always, and I always say plant more. So like if it's a pack of basil seeds that are a few years old, double the amount of seeds you put in your row, if in case only half germinate. So I'll say that as well, and just be super clear on the date that's on there. And actually what we did this year is I found a stash, Cindy, I have to confess, in my messy office and stuff, I found a little box of seeds that were several years old. And what I did was I put a big label on them and I said super old seeds, and I put them on our freebie table. So I forgot to talk about our freebie table, and those weren't included in the seed swap itself. Those were completely free and outside of it, and anybody at any time could pull from that box, and they knew going in these were some super old seeds. So I forgot to say that one of our features of our annual seed exchange is what I call the freebie table. And people bring in information on growing. People bring in their garden club applications or public garden press material. People will bring in books, like old gardening books or new gardening books that they've read and are done with. So it's always a great treat to look at the freebie table, because also people will bring in extra seed starting supplies, and we'll put those out on the freebie table. So extra seed trays, extra egg cartons, or what have you, will also be on the freebie table. And I'll usually stock some things, pre-stock some things on the freebie table, because I get sent lots of examples and samples for testing for Washington Gardener magazine, and so I'll always have extra stuff to go on the freebie table as well. So we'll call it like a book swap, but also a freebie table as well.
Yeah, truly building community. I love it. Okay, the next question comes from Jenny, and Jenny asks, are you able to pay speakers? If so, what is your funding source? And do you have entrance fees to seed swaps, grants, donors? How is it funded?
Yeah, so I do charge a nominal entry fee. I think we started off with $10 for either they were a member of the Public Gardens Friends group, or they were a Washington Gardener subscriber, and then the general public was 15. I think we're now 15 and 20. So it's still a nominal fee. I also do have what I call a scholarship program. So if that fee was prohibitive to somebody for coming in, I don't want that to ever be the case. They can always come to the side to me, and I would be like happy to let them in. So we've had, again, attendees of all ages. We've had mother and daughter, friends who come back every year, some that come, that's their annual, start of the growing season. And it's great to have seen them over the 15 plus years. Some people who have come every year, and that's their thing. And they are, I'm going to say, hardcore seed nuts is what I'm going to call them. But yeah, so that's what we use to pay our speakers, and any other expenses we have in running the event. So it all depends. You can do it completely volunteer run. You can do it with paid staff, or again, if you partner with another organization, they might be able to cover some of those expenses for you too.
Wonderful. I'm going to highlight a few comments. There's some resources that are being posted in the chat right now. So if you don't have the chat open, please go there. And there's behind the scenes Seed Savers Exchange staff posting resources, some resources on how to organize seed swaps, seed libraries, and more with the Community Seed Network. Here's another one, another highlight of the Community Seed Network. That's a program that's in partnership between Seed Savers Exchange and Seed Change in Canada.
Yay. And I was going to say, Cindy, one of the things that we also have on our freebies table is seed catalogs. So a lot of the seed companies, when they're sending me their older last year seeds for donation, they'll send me a stack of catalogs. And that's super helpful for a lot of, especially beginners. Those descriptions and everything in there is great. And people will bring in their older catalogs too for learning as well. And I was just going to say, I attended a couple seed swaps before I started mine, just to get, how different people did it. And one of those was I was speaking at Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's place outside of Charlottesville, and they had like a mini seed swap. And basically it was just 2 tables out on the lawn in front of Monticello, and you just went up and you had your seeds, whatever in your pockets, and you just said, hey, would you like these seeds? And people were like, yes, I'll like this seed. So it was very, very informal. So literally your seed swap could be as informal as just inviting some neighbors over for a cup of tea and bring what seeds you have and exchanging on a coffee table, up to, again, what we have, a very structured, organized event. And I'm going to say, Cindy, that first seed swap, I was hooked because I brought a bunch of seeds and I came home with jars of apple butter. And that's what the lady had to trade for me. And I was like, I'll take all the apple butter. And she was ecstatic about the seeds. I was ecstatic about the apple butter. So yeah, it was a win-win for all of us.
I love it. Okay, we have another question from Spencer. How many people typically attend your seed swaps?
That's a good question, Spencer, because we do limit to 100 is our maximum. And that's because we're in a huge auditorium that seats 300 in theater style, but we have the tables of seeds all around the room. So that takes up about, a third of the room right there. And then we want people to be able to move comfortably to get up and get their seeds. So that's why we max it at 100. And that's why I have 2 now, the one Saturday in Maryland and the following Saturday in Virginia. So we can do 2. And of course, different seeds, different people come to each, and different combinations of that. But I would recommend, depending on the size of your space, having a limit, because it could get a little bit too much. And you don't want people disappointed that they only came away with like 1 seed pack or something. You want them to be able to start their seed journey well.
I'm going to highlight a few other comments. You're truly inspiring this group of gardeners, Kathy. Again, Bridget says, our seed library will try this next year. We're trying out our first seedling and plant swap this month. Thank you for this info.
Great. Yeah, and send them to me. My email is kathyjentz@gmail.com. So if you want your local seed swap listed on Seed Swap Day, we're happy to add you to the listings.
That's a great recommendation. Another inspirational note from Maggie. Love it. Great info. Planning our next year's seed swap with our master gardeners now. Good for you, Maggie.
And I love our master gardeners. And I will say, for our first few seed exchanges, we had a table right outside the room with a master gardener clinic going on. So people could go out there and ask their gardening questions. And then we kind of outgrew that space. But we have several master gardeners who attend every year that love the event. And so they're there also to answer gardening questions that people might have and refer them to our local extension service if they can't personally answer them. So I was going to say, it's a great idea to partner with your local master gardeners if you're not already connected to master gardeners for your seed swaps.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. I can't not show this comment from Joanne. I attended a plant seed swap years ago, and before they opened the gates, so to speak, one of the ladies in charge spoke up and told everyone to behave as if their mothers were watching. What great advice, Joanne. I love it. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I would say almost all of our attendees are very well behaved, and it's only, you know, when you go in there and then your eyes, it's like Christmas, whoop, like then you might forget your manners for a minute, but yes.
Kathy, has anything else come to mind or anything else that came up that you'd like to share that hasn't directly been asked?
Sure. I would say that have extras of everything on hand. So, like, we provide extra packing material because almost always, even though we have it in our instructions how to pack and bring your seeds, somebody will arrive with a sack or a jar of seeds and they haven't been pre-sorted. So we tell people usually about 10 to 20 seeds per packet, like what a normal home gardener might grow. So we only need maybe 10 cucumber seeds. We don't need 100 cucumber seeds. So breaking up those bulk sizes as they come in is one of the things our volunteers are doing as things are being put out on the tables as well. But it helps for if people are prepped in advance. And we have those, how to attend a seed exchange is on Seed Swap Day. How to hold a seed exchange is on the Seed Swap Day website as well. And then tips for collecting seeds, of course, is also on that website as well.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Okay, so Sydney has posted your email address. So kathygentz@gmail.com. Get in touch with Kathy and she'll post your seed swap if you want it shared on that national list. And then we're also getting ready for our next session. Our next session will be called Using Mutual Aid and Community Seed Network Building with Denise Cusack at 2:30 p.m. Central Time. Kathy, I just want to again say a heartfelt thank you for participating in today's virtual conference. You had a very inspirational presentation, and I think we all learned so much and are leaving inspired.
Yay. My goal is a seed swap, at least one in every state and every country to happen on Seed Swap Day. I would love to see that happen.
Let's do it.
Yay.
Okay, thanks again and enjoy the rest of the conference.